to our next episode of the Sitcom Archive Deep Dive Overdrive. We are SADO for short, and each week we take a deep dive into every single episode of The Good Life, our favourite TV show from the 70s.
We do indeed, and Alison is your co-host.
Yes.
Because she never introduces herself.
I always forget. Sorry. I will say, I'll do it properly. I am your co-host, Alison Barton-Simmons.
And now then, I'm the other fella, Eggs Benedict. Eggs Benedict. Now, we encourage people who listen to this podcast, not that it's a prerequisite, do what you want, you're an adult, presumably. But we encourage people to watch the episode of The Good Life that we are talking about, and then listen to us chat shit about it. So if you're keen to get on board that train, get over to Dailymotion and watch the corresponding episode before you listen to us. We tweet out links and Facebook post links to where you can watch it for free, or you can watch it on BritBox. Is that right? BritBox?
Yes. Or you can buy the DVDs, which I did initially, and then got fed up, and now I watch them on Dailymotion.
So before we get stuck into this week's episode, which is Series 3, Episode 6, Whose Fleas Are These?, we're going to have a little discussion around sitcom crossovers we wish would have happened. This is born of a Twitter post I saw the other day with a brilliant idea of if Margo and Jerry had gone and stayed at Fawlty Towers.
Wow, that would have been amazing.
It almost writes itself, doesn't it?
Can you imagine the chaos?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just picturing it now.
It wouldn't have gone well for Margo or Basil. And poor Jerry would have borne the brunt of it. No.
Oh, dear. Yeah, he would have been tearing his hair out completely.
But Basil, he's always trying to ingratiate himself to what he sees as the upper, the middle and middle classes and landed gentry. Margo is middle class and clearly has aspirations for being that way. So it would have been an interesting thing to see whether Basil viewed her as someone to sycophantically treat well, or he would have seen them just as riffraff, like most of his guests.
I think it would have started off in exactly that way, where he would have been falling over himself to do everything for the Ledbetters and to make their stay as comfortable as possible. By the end of it, it would have been tearing his hair out and just getting infuriated by the fact that she can be such a damn bloody difficult woman.
Yeah, probably. Jerry would have got his checkbook out, and that would have impressed Basil.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, the Ledbetters would never have holidayed in Torquay. They go to Kenya and places like that, don't they?
They do. Safaris.
Yeah.
African safaris, yeah. But I don't know. I can imagine, I don't know, a situation where they would have ended up in Torquay. Perhaps.
Maybe. Lockdown. That would have done it.
Jerry's work, I don't know, being sent to do something in Torquay and having a bit of a jolly while they were there.
Part of me thinks they would have stayed in a much more exclusive place than Fawlty Towers, though. If they'd
perhaps
rocked up to Fawlty Towers in a Volvo and seen watery twats on the sign.
It could have been, if everything else was booked up, I can imagine that would have been the situation, that it was like a last chance saloon. It's the only place that they could stop.
Possibly so, yeah. But it does beg the question about other sitcom crossovers we'd like to have seen. And I had a little think about that. And I came up with some obvious ones, like Frank Spencer being banged up in Slade Prison with Fletcher. Because
I can only picture him on roller skates, though, just clattering round a prison.
I don't think Mr. Mackay would have been very happy with that, would he? Well, to be honest, Frank Spencer should be in Slade Prison for all the criminal damage he causes.
Yeah, he should.
You know, he's always getting away with fucking ruining and wrecking things.
Oh, I can just picture him roller skating down the metal sidings near the doors and like going over the side and just dropping to his death.
Chaos, wasn't it? And upsetting. It was like the really hard inmate, the one who would like run the place basically in Porridge.
Oh, that'd have been perfect. That'd have been perfect to watch because he wouldn't get it. He wouldn't know what all that was about.
No, he'd go over his head.
And just been Frank Spencer about it.
What about Trigger in On the Buses? I hate you, Trigger. You don't sweep up properly. Oh, my God. Oh, bloody Trigger. Oh. No.
I see. On the Buses makes me cringe a little bit. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Jack in On the Buses that really... Oh, I hate that character. Yeah. And also, the way Olive's treated at home in On the Buses is horrible.
Yes, it is.
Now, we'll come on to that later because Olive's husband is in this episode of The Good Life.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I'll mention that when it comes up.
Oh, yes, please.
Vicar of Dibley on Craggy Island with Father Ted, having faith wars.
Oh, gosh, yeah. What, like on a retreat?
Yeah.
Going over and staying with them?
Yeah.
That'd have been quite funny.
Getting pissed with Father Jack.
That'd
be good.
That'd be great to watch.
Victor Meldrew in Last of the Summer Wine. Could that work? Maybe not.
Do you think would they even let him be part of the gang, do you think? Or would he just be too much?
Yeah, he's too curmudgeonly, probably. You can't see him.
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm rolling down the hill in this bath.
They just sit him in it and just push him down.
Yeah, fuck off, Victor. Fuck off. Miserable fucker. I suppose in Red Dwarf they could time travel into any sitcom anywhere, couldn't they?
Oh, where would be a good place for them guys to end up then?
Maybe Blackadder.
Oh,
Blackadder
God, that's
2.
just... Yes, yep.
They could get in trouble with Queenie.
I love Queenie. She's one of my faves.
I'd like to do Blackadder at some point.
Do you think that? I'm just trying to think of Queenie with the character. Do you think the cat would try and
shag her,
get off with her? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But he'd probably just end up with Nanny instead.
Yeah.
Bernard. What else have I got? I just jotted this shit down. It's like some sort of weird fever dream. Good night, sweetheart. Dad's army. Nicholas Lyndhurst.
Crossover between them two?
Yeah, Nicholas Lyndhurst goes back in time and he ends up being conscripted into the army with Captain Mainwaring. Well, the Home Guard.
Oh, I'd like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to see him turn up in Dad's army.
Yeah. You stupid boy, Rodney, you plonker.
I think that'd work. I think that's, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, well, there you go. I just thought of it like off the cuff 5 minutes ago, but I'll write into...
That's brilliant.
I'll write into Sir John BBC. And then the last idea I had, which I thought was a good one, was In Sickness and in Health.
Yes.
Alf Garnett in Desmond's. Do you not think that would work? Alf's local barber gets taken over.
I don't think it would work.
Maybe not now, but then it might work.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that happen with Pork Pie just rounding on him.
Yeah. Because he wouldn't let Desmond cut his hair. He insisted on, what was the guy's name? Tony, the white guy.
Yeah, the white guy.
Yeah.
I like Desmond's.
I never really watched it. I just dipped into it.
Did you not?
Again. Yeah, Ali liked it.
When I see the Channel 4 symbol, the old number 4 with all the bright prime coloured bars on it, that's the first show that I think of, Desmond's.
Weirdly, I always think of Vorderman.
Do you? From Countdown?
Yeah, I don't know why. I'd rather not think of Vorderman. But she just pops into my head unbidden whenever I see that logo.
Strange, isn't it?
That's enough fantasising about sitcoms that never would or will happen, isn't it?
It is, but if you are listening and you've got any ideas of any cut and shut sitcoms that you'd like to be in reality, let us know, because we'd love to hear about them.
Cut and shut like Barbara's trousers.
Like Barbara's trousers, yes. So we are now up to Series 3, Episode 6, Whose Fleas Are These? Shall we take a deep dive, Ben?
Yeah, let's do it.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So as with many of the episodes that we've talked about previously, we are starting our deep dive in Tom and Barbara's kitchen. They're in front of the range, they're sat just warming themselves, Barbara's reading, it's all cosy, but Tom, is insisting on... He's just being a nuisance, really, isn't he, to Barbara? She's trying to sit and read, and he's sat looking over her shoulder and just generally being a pain.
He's doing that noise that he does all the time.
Yeah.
Reading over her shoulder and turning her pages for her. Just a pain in the arse.
Yeah. Although there was something that he was doing that I found quite interesting and a bit fascinating. When he was playing that cricket game with his book, fantasy cricket, where he was like rolling, they weren't dice, they were like sticks that he was rolling, to sort of give out runs to people in his fantasy book, which I thought it just looked really interesting what he was doing.
I was more interested by the composition of his batting lineup, personally, because he delved into the realm of fantasy world, and he'd started including, actually, who had he started including? He'd run out of sports people. Was it musicians?
He had film stars, because he had Hedy Lamarr had bowled him out the week before, and I think he had musicians. But he was playing this game and writing like you would if you were like a kid, like a really sort of childlike pastime, really.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what he is.
Yeah, but I found it very interesting.
It reminded me a little bit of when Phoebe and Friends make... Is it Phoebe? No, it's Ross. When he makes that laminated list of 5 people he's allowed to sleep with.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a fantasy list. And that's what Tom was doing for his cricket team.
Yeah.
And I've long, and you probably know this, because we've known each other long enough, I've long been an advocate of having a laminated list of people, 5 people that you're allowed to give a good slap to, repercussion free.
Slap list. Yep. I remember the slap list.
Paul McCartney always features.
Number 1.
James Corden would probably be on it now.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. Parky. I hate Parky.
Yeah.
Prick.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, because he never looks at the camera. He's really insulting to guests. He's really sexist. Look up that Helen Mirren.
Oh, the Helen Mirren one is horrendous. Yeah. Yes.
It's one he does with Penelope Keith that's really condescending as well. He's just always condescending to women, and he's incapable of looking at the camera while reading on autocue.
Oh, I'm going to have to YouTube some stuff after and find out this about Parky.
He's full of conceit and his own self-importance, and I don't even think he was that great an interviewer. I know that's controversial, but I just think he... I preferred Aspel.
I like Aspel.
I liked Michael Aspel.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially when Aspel and Parkinson were both Give Us a Clue presenters. I was always a big fan of the Aspel regime.
Yes.
More so than Parky.
I like Lisa Goddard.
But we're going off topic,
yeah,
aren't
anyway.
we? Sorry about that.
Anyway, back to the range. So they're cozying up in front of the range, and a bit of soot falls down, and they're a bit of concern. Bit of soot. They've never had that before. Barbara's a bit worried that it's getting a bit dirty in the kitchen, but Tom just reassures her. You know, this is just the it's telling you that the chimney needs sweeping. It's just something that we need to get onto. And then, as any good sitcom sort of plays out, a shitload of soot just comes falling down. It billows all the way across the kitchen. It covers them, and they are covered from soot from head to toe.
And the audience went wild at this point, didn't they?
They did. They found it hilarious. And you could see it coming. You could see it coming a mile off with binoculars, but it was quite funny, and it did make me laugh, actually, when they got covered. However... Yeah,
it was funny, but the slapstick is a big favourite of your 70s audience, isn't it?
They love
Margo
it.
falling over in the garden.
Oh, they love it. They go mad.
Yeah.
Of course, so where are Barbara and Tom going to turn when they are covered in soot, the hot water's gone off? Where do they go? They go to the Ledbetters next door, of course, but they turn up prepared with their own newspapers to stand on in the hallway. And at this point, even Margo says, I sometimes wonder what you'd do if you didn't have us living next door. And I thought the same thing. What would they do? They'd sit in their own shit all night, wouldn't they? But there's Margo and Jerry to save the day once again. Even offering them a drink, Margo comes in with a drinks trolley, not even just 2 drinks. She comes in with a drinks trolley, which is very, very sweet. Tom, unfortunately, as he puts his hand on the wall to steady himself, just puts a sooty handprint next to a picture, and has to sort of pull the picture across in order to cover up the mess that he's made. So not only have they gone round to muddy up their bathroom and just cover their bathroom in sooty crap, he's put dirt all over the walls as well.
Yeah, and then, having obscured it with the portrait or whatever it was, the picture that was on the wall, instead of fessing up, he goes and hides the other side of Barbara. He moves further away from it, so Barbara looks nearer to it.
Oh, it's sort of this scene I found a bit. It was a bit weird considering that they are best friends and they've gone round there to have a bath because they're so dirty and covered in soot. But it's like a really awkward exchange of, isn't this nice? But it's just not nice. They're just weird.
Yes, but then of course when it comes to small talk, Margo says Mrs. Dooms Patterson's horse has dropsy.
Yes.
What's dropsy?
Is it not to do with? I want to say it's to do with like coordination.
Right, it's not to do with shit.
I don't think so. What you mean, like dropping shit?
Yeah, like diarrhea. I thought she was just talking about the state of Mrs. Dooms Patterson's horse's bowels.
I don't think so.
That wouldn't be polite conversation for whole gin, would it?
Another word for it is oedema, a condition characterised by an excess of watery fluid collecting in the cavities or tissues of the body.
Yeah.
So it could. I don't know. So it could be to do with balance. Don't know. And I don't know. So Margot's had tea with Mrs. Dooms Patterson, who is encouraging Margo to become an active force for the local Conservative Party. When she says when the country comes to its senses and has a general election, so we're finding out more and more about Margot's political leanings, aren't we? As we go on.
Well, I don't think it had ever been particularly secret.
No, she doesn't hide it under a bushel, does she? Really? So it's
not really.
But you can see that this sort of fills Margo with glee, doesn't it? She's quite excited at the prospect.
It does play into the idea of Thatcher writ small, as we discussed recently, doesn't it?
I think we were on the right lines, I think. The only concern that Jerry's got is that means that Mrs. Dooms Patterson will be coming round to break more of the furniture.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bit cruel. Margo spots the picture and asks who's moved it, and then sees the handprint. And then Barbara, quite sheepishly, suggests that they go up and get the bath, and off they go. Together to get a bath.
Yeah.
Barbara, aren't you going to stay and finish your drink?
Right, we'll hop in together.
Together?
It's quite nice. You ought to try it sometime.
Really? Did you hear that, Jerry?
Yeah.
Together? Certainly not.
Back in the goods front room, and they're all cosy in the dressing gowns. They're all nice and clean and tidy. But they've still not cleaned the kitchen up. And before they sort of realised what they'd done, that they'd had a bath before they cleaned up, I thought, oh God, why would you have gone and done that? But obviously it was played for a joke.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
That if you'd not cleaned your kitchen up, why would you go and have a bath?
They're a bit slow sometimes, the goods.
Yeah, a little bit. But Barbara is then scratching her leg and realises before too long that she's got fleas. And
well, her reaction,
she's absolutely she's just so appalled with the idea.
Yeah, I mean, all through this episode, she is. I would say Felicity Kendall plays it quite hammy and dramatic.
Yes,
she's probably deliberately because she's a fine actress. She's just overly, demonstrably appalled and shocked, and
lots of yelping and jumping and
and Tom, of course, he sort of tells her to pull herself together, and then he invokes like the spirit of the Blitz again, doesn't he? Saying, if we're fighting in the trenches, I want a wife who's going to be there with me at the front or whatever. There's a lot of war talk.
There is
in these type of things.
It's fleas. But the thing that the goods are concerned about is that if they pass this on to the authorities, that they're going to come and get rid of their animals, because that's where they're assuming that these fleas are from.
Yes. Okay.
the next scene shows just how concerned Barbara is about this, and it made me smile. The scene with the postman, because I can imagine there's been quite a lot of houses in the past few recent months where this has gone on, where it's like step away from the door and like pulling your shopping in with a handle off a broom, so you don't get into contact with anyone. But she's trying to sort of keep the postman away from the door without telling him that she's got fleas.
Well, first of all, she shuts the window in his face, and if you watch that again, I think she actually clocks him in the face.
Does she? With the window?
I think she clocks the actor in the face with the window. She shuts it. He's literally leaning in the window, and she goes, oh, and slams the window in his face, and I'm sure she clocks him.
Flipping heck.
Poor bugger.
Oh, he was quite a hammy actor.
Well, to me, he sounded like Jasper Carrot. He had that sort of weird, sort of brummy...
Yes.
Thing, and he was obsessed with Rod Steiger.
He was obsessed with Rod Steiger.
Totally weird.
Yeah. So when she'd finally got shut of the postman, and invited him to come back next week when she can give him tea and biscuits, the Goods have a realisation that how the hell are they going to keep Margo and Jerry away, because them are two people you do not want to know that you've got fleas. Tom says, we'll tell them that we're having Michael Foot staying here for a couple of weeks, which did make me titter.
But then after that, she says, oh, I've just had an even worse thought. And he says, what, Wedgie Ben?
Yeah.
And I actually hadn't, I really admire Tony Benn a lot, but I'd never heard him called Wedgie before. I mean...
Wedgie Ben.
It was his middle name, wasn't it? Wedgwood.
See, I assumed it was him, but I didn't realise that. So he was called, his middle name was Wedgwood.
Anthony Neil Wedgwood Ben.
Craziness.
When Tom said Wedgie Ben, a bloke in the audience actually went, ha! And clapped.
I'll have to go back and
Which
look at
amused
that.
me.
Oi, oi.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Oi, oi. I'll never forget the oi, oi.
The audience for this show are just fucking nuts, aren't they? They really are.
So next thing we're at the Ledbetters, and there's clearly some tension in the air. They're just both sat doing their own thing. Jerry's behind a newspaper, and Margo says that she can see the expression on his face by the position of his feet, and he's not happy. And it's effectively, Jerry's not happy at having his home invaded by 20 stone Tory trouts.
He's not looking forward to the prospect, is he?
He just wants... It's the same when he wanted her to go to night class. He just wants her out of the house so he can have a quiet night in.
Yeah, he just wants a curry and a razzle. That's all he wants.
Yeah, pretty much.
Poor Jerry. So as the mid-conversation about this, the Goods turn up at the patio doors with a sign that they've made asking the Ledbetters, are you itching? And it just happens that at that point, they're having Margo's having a bit of a scratch of her head, and the Goods go in, they just barge in at this point. There's nothing to lose, have they? And they said, we've got something to tell you. We've given you fleas.
Well, they don't just do that, do they? They meander around the subject for about a minute before finally spitting it out about the fleas. I don't know why this happens in sitcoms and dramas. If you're someone to say, fucking just spit it out, lad.
Yeah. But Margo's first instinct, which you know was on the cards, was that Jerry needs to burn everything. Because Margo is so appalled that there's fleas in the house. Next up, we see Barbara and Tom
Thank you very much,
at
Tom.
the front window
Goodbye.
watching out for the disinfestation man coming. And there's a lot of panic as a car pulls up very loudly when they're in the front room. You can hear it sort of coming up the road, and Barbara's really concerned that this guy is going to just get rid of all their animals.
She's frantic, isn't she?
She is, but the door goes and they open it, and this bloke, it's very odd.
I liked it. I know it was ridiculous.
Weird man turns up, professing to be selling encyclopedias with lots of interesting entries under F. Words like formaldehyde and fleas. So, yeah, talk about not getting to the point.
Good afternoon, sir. Could I interest you in a set of encyclopedias?
No, thank you.
There are some very interesting entries under the letter F, sir.
No, thank you.
Such as formaldehyde.
Look.
And fleas.
Oh, come in.
It was like Eric Idle, wasn't it?
Oh,
Nudge, nudge,
it
wink,
was. It was. So, when they finally figure out what he's there for, he says that he does it so that for the subterfuge to stop all the stigmata with the neighbours, right? Which I know was a specific joke, but the audience didn't laugh. The fact that he'd said to stop all the stigmata, I knew what he was getting at. It was the stigma, but the joke just fell on for an audience that fucking fall about when they see a cat's ass on fire. When there's an actual specific joke in there.
Yeah.
No one laughed. No one laughed. And
poor Esmond and Larby, they probably slaved over that.
I bet they did. I bet they were like, oh, Jesus Christ. I've got to say, in this episode as well, Ben, I don't know if you noticed, there were lots of really odd cuts in the editing.
Were there?
Things ended really dramatically. Like, scenes were cut, and it happened more than once, where scenes are cut, like, really sort of quickly. And I don't know whether...
No, I didn't pick up on it.
I don't know whether there was a point to it or whether it was just part... I don't know. Maybe someone was just trying to get the job done quickly.
Or maybe it's a subsequent edit and it's, you get this with some of these shows from the 70s that scenes are clipped because of impropriety.
Perhaps. It did...
Maybe the version we watched had scenes that were cut out because P.V. Balstrode, or whatever his name was being inappropriate.
Could be that.
Don't know.
It did seem very clipped. That's a good word. Yeah, things just seem to end. Oh, we're on to another scene now before I'd even sort of realised. So yes, we're chatting about fleas here. Barbara's like hysterical at this stage, and the guy is brushing Tom's head over some paper to try and get a flea to drop out so that he can sort of investigate it with his microscope. Tom's already one step ahead, and he's put one already into. He's got it in the kitchen. Is it in disinfectant? He's put it into a jar for the guy to look at.
But he's put it aside, hasn't he? And the guy is very impressed because he wishes more people did this. This is a guy who loves his job.
Oh, he does.
The Balstrodes go back to the bubonic times.
He loves it, doesn't he? And you can tell that he takes a lot of pride in what he does. Despite it being, he's a bit of a job's worth. But he comes to the conclusion that the flea that the goods have found is a dog flea, which obviously they say, we don't have a dog. We've never had a dog, and this guy's sort of trying to find a dog all over the house. But no dog. So where are these fleas from?
But when he says when they say we haven't got a dog, he says, "Yes, you have," and then he starts whistling for the dog as if they're keeping it quiet.
Trying to find
uses him basically a lion.
It's in a cupboard somewhere.
Here, boy.
Oh,
this is the guy, by the way, who was Arthur in On the Buses.
Ah, right, okay.
Olive's snobby, hypocritical husband.
Oh.
Yeah, this is the guy. I quite enjoyed his performance. I was watching it thinking, I bet he annoys Alison. Which probably means he's done a good job, as you always say.
Exactly. If I feel that put out by someone, it's usually because they've done a good job. And yeah, he was good at the part, and he just bugged me. He bugged me from the moment they opened the door. He bugged me.
No pun intended.
No. So we're back round at Margo and Jerry's. Jerry's busy reading his Playboy. He's got it upended. The Playboy, I mean.
Soft porn tab.
Oh, there it is. So Tom arrives into the front room and he's squirting Jerry with some bug spray.
Interrupting him from his Playboy, of course.
From his Playboy, exactly.
He was getting stuck into his Playboy and he quickly, sheepishly hides it as soon as Tom comes in.
Hides it away. They know, though. Why is he hiding it?
Well, mate, he should be busy zipping himself up. Actually, that reminds me. I said to Ali last night, I was watching it last night, and I said, just sort of almost to myself, but Ali was in the room, I said, he's always looking at soft porn, but he's never wanking. And she just looked up from her iPad and went, well, it was a 70s sitcom. They're not likely to be broadcasting that on the BBC, him with his lad out every second scene, are they?
Niche genre, yeah. Oh, dear. It's in the outtakes, that, isn't it? Oh, dear.
Oh, I
I'm
hope
glad.
not.
I'm glad they didn't. Oh, dear. Margo wanders in and she says, "Hello, Tom and Barbara. Goodbye, Tom and Barbara," which I quite liked.
Yeah.
So while the couples are busy debating where these fleas have come from, because obviously the Goods don't have a dog, they've obviously arrived from somewhere. Margo, this bit, it's like the, what's the word? The Columbo moment. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do I mean that? Yeah, it's a Columbo moment.
It'll work. Yeah, we know what you mean.
Yeah. Margo brushes off hers from Ben, Mrs. Doom Patterson's old English sheepdog. Da, da, da. And Tom and Barbara guess straight away that it is from Ben. Ben is the dog with the fleas that they've all caught. But they tell Jerry to sort of like break it to her gently.
Now she's being slow, isn't she?
She is. She doesn't get it at all. Tom and Barbara sort of scuttle outside, and Margo screams, obviously knowing that it's her. She's the reason why everybody's got fleas. And then the Goods from this deduce that he's told her. He's told her, and she's like, you can just imagine the hysterics and the rinsing down that'll have to come after all this.
Well, Jerry looked like he had a new pair of Burberrys on.
Well, they're not the same
different.
ones. Were they different ones?
I think that's slightly different. So he's possibly just got a new pair of Burberrys. Now they're going to have to be de-loused or whatever.
Yeah, they'll have to get the fumigators in, won't they?
Bob Larby observed that the only thing in the good life that's dated is Paul Eddington's trousers.
Really?
Because basically it's still relevant, is the point he's making.
What, the trousers?
But just as we're talking...
The trousers aren't?
No. He's saying everything's still relevant in the good life, but the only thing that's dated is the kecks.
Oh, I quite like his kecks.
Yeah, you wouldn't get away with them now, though, would you?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where you'd wear them.
So that's the episode. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was this use of, once again, of incredibly one-dimensional, oddball cameo characters.
Yes.
We've got the postie who's obsessed with Rod Steiger films and how they've impacted society in Britain. He just keeps going on about Rod Steiger and wanting to write Rod Steiger a letter, and he's like, he reminded me of the guy in Friends who, and this is the second time I've referenced Friends in this episode, but you know that guy, the doctor, who just is obsessed with Fonzie?
Oh, yeah. Yes. like really weird sort of chit-chat from a character that's never in it. You're in it once, and then you just spouting loads of nonsense.
And the flea disinfestator, if that's a word, he was similarly oddball and eccentric. And clearly this is what Larby and Esmond like to do. And I enjoy it, I must admit, when you throw in a character that doesn't need to be well-rounded.
Yeah. And
he's almost a scene stealer because of his bizarre idiosyncrasies. My favourite sitcom ever is Father Ted. I'm not sure if we can ever do that because it's 90s. Maybe we can extend our archive to cover the 90s at some point.
Maybe.
Are you a fan of Father Ted?
Yes.
And all the priests in that are just crazy, not well-rounded characters, but hysterically one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And this almost foreshadowed that. I don't know how much influence Larby and Esmond's writing had on Graham Linehan and Arthur Matthews, who wrote Father Ted. But yeah, I enjoy these weird characters who come and just behave incredibly oddly,
Because there's never anyone normal. There's never any sort of bit part that so far where there's not been just that oddball sort of character.
Yeah. Okay, well, apart from Jerry's pants, which Bob Larby observed were dated, let's have a look at the rest of the fashion in this episode by having a trip over to Fashion Corner.
Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner. Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner.
So, as usual, we are quite Margo heavy. However, I wanted to just point out Barbara at the start of this episode, looking particular, just looked very natty. She looked amazing at the start of this episode. She's wearing like a headscarf with a black roll neck top and her dungarees with really thick black glasses, and it just made me think next time I get my specs, because every couple of years I get new specs, I want big thick black Barbara specs.
I wrote down about her specs as well because they struck me as something you'd see on Open University in the 70s, like
yes,
big black,
like big television sort of size black outside frames. Black framed
Outside bits.
Outside bits. Black frame, very thick, sort of. Yeah, but that sort of ensemble of outfit about Barbara, and she doesn't get much, does she? It's a shame because obviously the whole character is about not having high fashion any longer. She gets obviously none of the budget because she's having to sew trousers together to make new trousers. But just that particular outfit, I just thought she just looked really stylish, despite the fact that it's supposed to be utilitarian. Is that what I mean? She's supposed to just be wearing it for work. It's supposed to just be useful rather than have any kind of elegance to it. But she just looked fab. Jerry's suit, when they're busy trying to sort the goods out for a bath covered in soot, Jerry had this particularly smart grey suit on and like a geometric tie, and it's a suit I don't think we've seen previously. It's like a very pale grey, which I would sort of put at like late 70s, early 80s look about it.
I thought it was a bit Jim Hacker. It's almost like his role in Yes Minister.
Yes, it was definitely edging on Yes Minister look to it, weren't it? Sort of, I don't know, less office wear and more sort of smart, upper class gent look about it, I thought.
Yeah, I agree.
Margo, there was a couple of Margo outfits that I wanted to mention. When they are sat in their front room waiting for the goods to come round to tell them that they might have fleas, she had a headscarf on with like a plaited black and white band around it with like narrow stripes and like a matching top, and she just looked very sort of cool and elegant, obviously for just lounging around the house and drinking gin. Jerry has a powder blue silk polo neck top on that's worth a mention here. Looked very snazzy. Very sort of man about town, which we've said before that Jerry's got that air about him. But he's always like really well coordinated and put together, isn't he? Despite what he has on, he always looks really cool.
Yes.
And then when Margo comes in from, I think she's been to Mrs. Doones Patterson's at the end, and she's sort of sweeping off the dog hairs. She's wearing like a baby pink belted dress. It's got like a white trim and a black hat. She's always got a hat on in recent scenes where I've sort of mentioned what she's got on. She's always of really well coordinated. A black hat with a pink and white ribbon around it, black gloves and a black flower, which she does sort of favour. She likes having a flower on her.
Massive flower.
It's enormous, yeah.
She loves a massive flower and she loves a tit.
But she's so well sort of coordinated and put together. So yeah, I think there's definitely sort of like a lot of Margo fashion going on in this episode. But Barbara's sort of very basic outfit at the beginning steals it for me.
What about the bugger's grips on the postie?
The what?
The bugger's grips, the sideburns.
Bugger's grips.
They were very 70s. I don't know if that is fashion.
Bugger lugs, yeah, they were, weren't they?
You've never heard bugger's grips before?
I've heard of bugger lugs, but not bugger's grips. But I think they're obviously the same thing.
Yes, probably. No, actually, bugger lugs. I thought that was
bugger
ears.
lugs. Is that ears? I thought that was sides. Oh,
bugger's
I don't know.
grips, quite literally, is quite a horrible image.
It is.
Yeah, but I've always liked it.
I remember once someone that I know went to pick up a son from nursery when he was about 2 and said, "Come on, bugger lugs," and she got in so much trouble off the nursery staff.
Really?
Yeah, for using it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that my great uncle, who I never met, apparently with kids he just had no filter. So even like in the 60s and 70s with my mum, as running around as a kid, he'd come in, he'd go, "Hello, shitty ass," in his like Scouse accent. It's like, you can't say that.
No. Oh, 70s uncles. 60s and 70s uncles.
Bless them. The ones who weren't nonces.
Yeah.
Who was your MVP this week?
I think my MVP this week was... I think Jerry this week. Only because there just seemed to be like just a level about Jerry in this episode. There was not hysterical, whereas everybody else just seemed to be a bit sort of on top note in this episode. And Jerry was just calm, busy, reading his Playboy.
Well, that's why I've given it to him as well.
Have you?
He managed to get rid of Margo to Mrs. James Patterson's because he didn't want a load of Tory heifers
Yeah.
in his lounge. And he got himself some soft porn time. So
Yeah.
he probably just demolished a curry too off camera and wafted it around the house.
I bet he did. Just ran around with it, waving it about.
Kudos to Jerry for that. I think we need an update because next week's episode is the last one of Series 3.
Right.
It's the last Posh Frock. So we'll do an MVP update after that and see where we stand. But Margo, I can tell you now, Margo's streaming ahead at this stage.
Yeah. We predicted
expected.
this. Yeah.
We did, but I was getting a bit worried by Tom and his early season form. But now he's well behind. Jerry's catching him up.
Cool. If you're liking what we're doing and you do fancy joining in and being part of this, you can find us at Saddle Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. We're on Facebook and you can find us by searching for Saddle Podcast. Subscribe to our newsletter by visiting our website at saddle.club. You can get more information about us, read the blog posts, listen to the episodes in your browser if you don't do podcast apps. Get in touch. Email us at saddlepodcast@gmail.com and tell us all the things that we've missed, because we love that. Subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcast from too.
Yeah, that'd be great actually, because we've got quite a few listeners now. I'm very grateful to people who are joining us every week. We've only got a couple of reviews as far as I can see. So if you're enjoying it, just we'd be really grateful if you could take 30 seconds just to leave us a nice review. Even if it's just clicking the 5 stars and you can't be bothered typing anything, that'd be great.
It's fair enough.
So join us next week for Series 3, Episode 7, The Last Posh Frock.
We'll see you then.
I'll see thee.